And we're back with another week of Find Your Film, and true to form, co-host Eric Holmes and I, we actually were under the gun and we got in all our featured movies right before recording began. So good job, Eric Holmes, who is Perix, Texas. Very good, Perix, Texas. That is an allusion to a movie, the Vin Vendors film that he's going to be talking about. It's a movie rewind that Bruce Perky did a couple of weeks ago, the movie Paris, Texas. My name is Greg Strzavasti. I'm the Greg Committee. We're doing a movie called The God Committee this week, starring. Do we call him Kelsey Grammer or do we call him Fraser Crane? What do we call him?
Fraser Grammer. I don't know what we call him.
Were any of you guys a fan of Frasier or Cheers or any of that stuff? Was it nice to see Kelsey Grammer again or not? You guys were not neither.
My brother's a huge fan of Cheers. He's either watching that or It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. At least one of those two is always on.
He must have a great sense of humor because both those shows are really awesome. Bruce Perky, come true, Bruce. Bruce, you have a very sleeper hit that I guess you really want to talk to us about this week. Is that probably one of your favorites this week?
Yeah, I was really surprised and happy when I saw that movie. I don't know if everyone else will be, but I was.
Okay, so some people might not be a fan of this movie called Come True. Something that will come true this weekend is a couple of movies that, at the behest of Eric Holmes, who is a ringleader of events. He likes bringing people and podcasters together for events that he creates. Credit to him to that. I'm excited for this. Eric Holmes, can you tell our listeners what kind of co-merge Find Your Film is having with Cinematics this weekend?
Well, we're doing another director spotlight, and this next spotlight is going to be on Stanley Kubrick. So, as you guys know, there's one person that we all know that I would say is probably the authority on Stanley Kubrick, and that's Anderson Cowan. So he's going to join us on the spotlight and probably school us on some Kubrick knowledge, and I can't wait.
The movies we are covering this weekend with Anderson Cowan. Anderson Cowan is a filmmaker. He directed Groupers. He's also spearheads 3 podcasts. One of them is Cinematics, which I co-host with him, and also the long-running and successful weekly film review program, The Film Vault. Last but not least, he also co-hosts a program with Tyler White, I believe, right? Tyler and Mike Carano. It's called The After Disaster. So that is, we're going to be joined this weekend with our buddy Anderson Cowan and Eric Holmes, because I just learned from Bruce Perky that Spartacus is 3 hours and 15 minutes. This is my rule, Eric Holmes. I thought Stanley Kubrick films are only 70 minutes. What's this with the long running time, buddy? Why? Couldn't you have picked Killer's Kiss or something else? Why Spartacus?
We could have. The reason I picked Spartacus was it was the one movie that, at least that I'm aware of, that he was hired on to. Like they had a director previously, they got fired, and then he got hired on later. So this would be a Stanley Kubrick movie that's not really a Stanley Kubrick movie, but I guess kind of is. And I had Anderson pick the second movie, Lolita, just because I was like, look, we know this one's the least Stanley Kubrick movie. What's like the most Stanley Kubrick movie? Probably not one that, not 2001 or Clockwork Orange that everyone's seen. And he's like, I don't think a lot of people watch Lolita, and that'd be a good one to talk about. So those are the 2 movies that we're doing.
Bruce, are you a fan of Spartacus or Lolita among Kubrick's work? Or any of you guys huge Kubrick guys like Anderson is?
Yeah, I mean, somewhere back there, I have the Stanley Kubrick DVD collection that came out in the early thousands. Doesn't have Spartacus because I think it was disowned by him as one of his actual films, but I like both of them, actually. Spartacus to me is the better Gladiator, so that's the way I look at it.
Eric Holmes, how old is Greg Strzavasti? How old am I? I'm so old that
you both look 20 to me.
Oh, thank you so much. That's what happens by being a biased friend. You are, Eric Holmes. I'm
Celsius.
so old. I'm so old. We're as old as one of the corpses that we're going to be talking about in this. Me and Bruce, we're both frozen cold corpses. We're going to be tackling that frozen cold corpse very, very soon. But I'm so old that I was one of the journalists who attended the Stanley Kubrick DVD press day for that collection that rests behind Bruce's office wall, which has all these different. Is that a? What I don't know what other boxes. Oh, there's a Wicker Man a special edition box set, probably from Anchor Bay Entertainment, a bunch of other stuff. And that Stanley Kubrick DVD collection is part of his collection. So that will be our director spotlight. Eric Holmes, yes, sir.
But Greg, how'd you pull that off if you're only 20 years old? You must have been.
Thank you.
Sir. Must have been like a couple months old when you did that. It doesn't make sense.
You are very kind, and I know why you're being kind, because what keeps me young, Eric Holmes, is the fact that I get to really fast forward through 75-minute movies. Unfortunately, you're going to see me age 35 years this Saturday when we record our Kubrick episode, because
I think he was
3 hours and 15 minutes.
Greg was floating over the thing like that little space baby, I think, during it. He was
the little space baby. Very good. Bruce Perky, we have some really interesting movies this week. We have Fear Street 1994. That is a part of it. It's called the Fear Street trilogy. It comes out on Netflix. The 1994 version is the first installment. We're going to get to that in a second. Our second movie, which is, we talked about Kelsey Grammer, and I threw in the Fraser Crane reference. No, he's very good in this movie called The God Committee, and it also co-stars Julia Stiles. And the Frozen Corpse movie that we're going to be talking about is a movie that, Eric Holmes, you just saw right under the gun. Like, did you just finish it like 10, 15 minutes ago?
No, it was probably an hour ago, I think.
Okay, we finished it at the same time. So we are very fresh regarding the movie, the Megan Fox headlined thriller, relationship thriller. It's Weekend at Bernie's meets an ice movie. It's called Till Death. So those are our three main movies this week. Bruce, just very quick catch-all. I mean, last week was a very big week for us. We had Te Llevo Conmigo, aka I Carry You With Me, a bunch of other really cool films. Was this week overall, maybe come true, saved it for you? Was its overall recap a little bit of a disappointing week as far as the grab bag that we had, or is it hard to compare because last week was so special?
I would say there's one movie I quite liked. There's one movie that was okay, and one movie I didn't like. So I'd say it's in the middle.
Okay. How about you, Eric Holmes? Good grab bag of three films before we get to them.
I would say so. We'll say it's a nice change up from what we've been doing, and there's a lot of dumb fun to be had this week. So I was all about it.
There's nothing wrong with dumb fun. After the emotional stakes of I Carry You With Me last week, that was very heavy. In a way, whether we like these movies or not, I'm glad that we were able to actually have some dumb fun this week, because last week was just too much, in a good way, too much drama, but very emotionally heavy. Now, first, we're going to start off with Fear Street Part 1, 1994.
Dude, what the hell?
This is exactly why you have no friends.
Look, some gal killed a bunch of people at the mall last night.
Holy shit. Another Shady Side tragedy. Fits the narrative, right?
Sarah Fear's back. Christ, not you two.
There's no angry, dead witch. The only thing that made him go crazy is this town.
The dude was wearing a Halloween skull mask. How is that not fun? Guys, I think there's someone in the woods.
We're together for one night and dead people are trying to kill us. Maybe we are doomed.
She was so sexy, but so crazy.
Normal bitches don't bleed black blood.
How do we not die? I'm looking at you, witch nerd.
You can't stop it.
Plot synopsis is a circle of teenage friends accidentally encounter the ancient evil responsible for a series of brutal murders that have plagued their town for over 300 years. Welcome to the town of Shadyside. Fear Street is the Fear Street trilogy. This one is Fear Street Part 1, 1994. All of these Fear Streets are based on a series of books by acclaimed children's author R.L. Stine. This is obviously not one of his children's books. This is the darker version of R.L. Stine. I have not read any of his books. Bruce, Eric, were you growing up? Were you fans of Stine? Are you familiar with any of his work at all?
I'm familiar with them because of my nieces and nephews. They watch the Goosebumps a lot, pretty much anything Goosebumps related. And so, they're fine. It's like any sort of anthology. Some are better than others, but overall, of the things my nieces and nephews watch, the Goosebumps aren't my least favorite, we'll say.
Okay, fair. And Bruce, your father, did you raise your sons on R.L. Stein, or were they ever Stein fans themselves?
The only person in my family that ever read R.L. Stein is my wife. I mentioned that I was watching this movie, and my wife actually read the Fear Street books and not the Goosebumps books. So she was actually kind of excited. And I told her that Friday we'd watch it again together because she's kind of interested in knowing about it. And I think, to me, and I don't know much about it myself, but it seems like the Fear Street series is kind of like the young adult version of the Goosebumps series, which is more for littler kids, I think. So that's kind of how it looks like to me.
Well, here's the thing about Fear Street Part 1, 1994. It's coming out again on Friday via Netflix. Thank you, Netflix, for providing us a link for Fear Street Part 1, 1994. I grew up, all three of us grew up in 1994. The first comment I received even before watching this movie is from Eric and Bruce, who incessantly, in an accurate way, actually, talked about all the needle drops that were part of Fear Street Part 1, 1994. Look, that's not a complaint. All three of us grew up going to Tower Records or Moby Disc or The Warehouse, buying CDs left and right. The thing is, they were correct. There are needle drops, it seems, every single bleeping minute. The production design of this movie, it looks like Stranger Things meets a 1990s horror homage to like a Scream or I Know What You Did Last Summer, those kind of movies. But I'm wondering, how the heck did they spend all that money? This whole thing must have cost millions of dollars just to get some music clearance for Fear Street Part 1, 1994. I'm just gonna really just very quickly, guys. Should we even talk about the spoilers? What the urban legend is or the myth is? I've read a lot of reviews where they tell exactly what's going on, who's the culprit, or for the purposes of this podcast, I'm gonna leave it up to you guys. How much should we spoil?
I have an idea.
Yeah,
because this is the first of a trilogy. The next one's coming out next week, and the third one the week after, right?
Mm-hmm.
I say we just be rather vague since we're going to be talking about the second one. And then before we talk about the second one next week, maybe we get into spoilers leading up to it. Because at that point, people will have had time to watch this one. And then the third week, do spoilers on the first and second episode. And then I think that'd be a fun way to do it.
Okay. Bruce, you co-sign on that?
That sounds fun. Yeah. And just let people know, that, hey, we're going to do this for a second. If you haven't seen the first one, go watch it, whatever.
Well, look, okay, that's a great idea. A lot of the print reviews, they're spoiling everything, what the whole legend is behind Shady Side, okay? Just know a couple things. There's Shady Side, there's Sunnyvale. Shady Side is the shadier side of town, which is probably the middle class to lower economic class as far as that strata, meaning 99% of the world. I hope for the next couple of installments, we get to see what Sunnyvale's like. Sunnyvale is the quote unquote upper middle class, sunnier side of the street. In the part 1, we see a little bit of a rivalry between those two schools, but that's just a small snippet of the narrative. Essentially, what you have is these 4 teenagers. 2 of them are siblings. The other 2 are best friends of the main character of the narrative, and that's it. They're looking for a murderer or a culprit who might be going around town in a skeleton. The quote unquote Skeletor mask, killing teenagers or people for some gosh forsaken reason. And that's the main plot of the movie. The lead of this movie is Kiana Madeira. She plays Dina. She is she's very, very good in this movie. I told Eric and Bruce, she reminds me of a younger version of Eliza Dushku. Maya Hawke, the daughter of Ethan Hawke, she shows up in the opening moments of the movie in a scream-like introduction, which is a throwback to that Wes Craven film. And after that first segment, it goes right into the narrative. So a lot of this movie feels like a throwback to Wes Craven's Scream, especially a lot of the movies from the 90s. But I think one of the great things about Fear Street Part 1, 1994, is that even though it's an homage to these movies, it doesn't languish and it is not a slave to all these tropes. Sure, there's a lot of needle drops. There's a lot of self-referential moments. But ultimately, this movie, directed by Lee Janiak previously directed Honeymoon, which I need to rewatch again. I remember loving it. But I ended up really enjoying Fear Street Part 1, 1994, because as much of it as it wanted us to remember a time gone by with these needle drops and these horror thrillers from the 90s, it's actually its own movie. It has its own identity. And by the third act, when people are dying, you actually get to, at least I did, I was actually invested in who lived or died. And there were a couple moments when I go, oh no, that just did not happen. And it did. And when you think of the name R.L. Stein, and you don't know like the Fear Street books, like Bruce's wife, yeah, it is a bloody film. Not too bloody like Jallo bloody, but it has its share of goriness. So, anyways, Eric Holmes, your overall thoughts regarding Fear Street Part 1, 1994. Did it live to its expectations for you?
Well, I don't know if it lived to my expectations because I wasn't really expecting much. I just thought it was kind of a cool release pattern that they had for these 3 movies. I put it in and I was like, oh, this will be a fun thing. I put it in and the opening scene was real good. And then they were just relentless with the needle drops. So, I mean, we already talked about that, but I cannot stress. Said someone should have probably put the brakes on that. But after that, I kind of started having fun with the mystery and the I guess the lore they're kind of building. And I was kind of like you with the characters. I kind of grew to love them. And when certain things happen to them, like when they're in peril, I'm just like, no, like I'm actually giving a shit, which that I was not expecting at all. I was expecting this one to be like, cool, these are the characters that's gonna die. And let's see what kind of fun ways it happens. But
Eric, do you credit the writing of the thing, or is it the characters themselves? Because I don't. This is one of those movies where I was just surprised at how much I actually cared about who died, as opposed to caring more for the kill scenes. You see what I'm saying?
Probably. I'd probably lean more on the actors, just because they're charming. But I mean, the words don't come out of their mouth if someone doesn't write it down first. So I mean, obviously the writing's got something to do with that. I like the fact that the 2 main characters were like in a world where Disney likes to have 2 straight characters and go, are they gay? Are they not gay? We don't know. It was the first gay blah blah. And like this, it's like all right out there. So they got the 2 gay characters, explicitly gay characters, which is nice. Real diverse cast. And this isn't going to be the type of movie that wins all the awards, but you know what, diversity, they need their cheeseburgers too. They can't all be they can't all be indie bombers. I was kind of worried at the beginning with all the needle drops. I was like, oh, is this going to do this the whole time? And then once I got over that, I had a lot of fun with this, and actually really looking forward to seeing what the second and third one bring.
The aforementioned the gay couple in this movie is the aforementioned Kiana Madeira as Dina, the main character, and her girlfriend or ex-girlfriend is played by Olivia Scott Welch. She plays Samantha Fraser. Samantha Fraser has a very pivotal part regarding the Fear Street lore. They're very good together. Also rounding out the cast is Benjamin Forrest Jr., plays Josh. He's Dina's younger brother, who probably like me, Eric, and Bruce, he was a big part of probably those. We were all probably a big part of those AOL chat rooms back in the day when the World Wide Web was upon us in Netscape Navigator. And we also have to mention Julia Raywald as Kate. She's one of their friends, and she's just this whippersnapper, very, very out. She drops a lot of one-liners, and she's very, very good in the movie as well. And I think who is the other person? I'm thinking the other person is named Simon, played by Fred Hetchinger. Yeah. So yeah, these are all very good young actors. And I think, to Eric's point, a big part of this movie's success lies in the charisma of all of these actors. I was actually surprised at how much I really liked them. Bruce, you're an expert in this genre. Want to know what you think? And I apologize, Bruce. I after listening to all these needle drops, I might have to disagree with Eric Holmes, because one of the good things about the needle drops, I got to Google bands I didn't know, and there was this band called the Pixies, and they did a pretty good job. Maybe I should start listening to their music.
Sorry, oh my Bruce. God.
I'm just kidding. I wanted, sorry guys. I actually know who the Pixies are. I don't have them on my Spotify list, but I'm sure, Bruce, Pixies were a big part of your life some 25, 30 years ago.
Indeed. I had several Pixies mixtapes around the same time as Nirvana. Yeah, like everybody. Anyway, and Faith No More and all that stuff. So I am right in line with you guys on this. I had pretty much the exact same experience. Probably for the first half hour, I was like, okay, I see what it's doing. It's almost distracting how much 90s shit they're throwing at me. But if I hadn't lived through the 90s, that might be way more fun too, to kind of let you get immersed into that world. So I kind of see why it's there. But then they really throttle it back in the last hour and, I don't know, 30 minutes, hour and 20 minutes. And like you guys both said, to me, it was like when the basic problem was set up and the basic group of characters came together as a group, kind of classic style, right? A plucky band of misfits having to figure out a mystery and fight against danger. That's when it worked. It worked really well. And I'll also echo what Eric said about the having a gay couple just in the center of the movie as the heroic figures, and it's just, that's what they are, and it's not a thing, it's just what it is. That's great. And you don't really see that much. You don't, not in these big Netflix crowd pleasing, cheeseburger type movies, like you said. So that alone is pretty great. And on those lines, I want to call out, there's a moment where everyone splits up into pairs to have their romantic moments in the midst of the madness. Well, there's 5. So there's 2 pairs and 1 loner. And they all get their scenes and they're all entertaining. And it was interesting how those 3 different scenarios played out.
As a lifelong loner, Bruce Perky, I have no problem with such scene.
I just want to see your fingernails. Do you have
okay, sorry.
colored fingernails there? So anyway, that was refreshing. And then also, once again, to echo what you guys said, I really cared about the characters. I liked that the stakes were real for some of the characters. That made it gutsier than it could have been, and I really appreciated that. And I also appreciated that some of their solutions, and once again, we're not going to get into spoilers, but some of their solutions were kind of daring. Like they have one solution that involves drugs. That,
right,
I can easily see that being talked back from, executives saying like, can we make that something else? We don't want to encourage drug use. So, I mean, there's a lot of things about this seemingly safe-ish horror movie that are less safe than they had to be, and I very, very much appreciated that. And it's just entertaining, and I want to see the next edition. So that's what it was supposed to do.
I would also have liked to seen this when I was like 15, 16, because I really enjoyed it. But I think if I saw this when I was 16, I'd be like, this is the greatest movie ever made.
I will be watching this with my family. I'm telling you that right now. Yeah.
We're talking about cheeseburgers, right? When you're making a cheeseburger within this genre, there's so many ways you can make a greasy cheeseburger, cut corners, and still make it a good cheeseburger. Nothing wrong with that. I'm surprised, to your point, Bruce, that they're offering up a seemingly really not too nutritious cheeseburger, but if you actually take a bite, there are things that they do that is absolutely uncompromising. They did not have to do that.
Nope.
So I'm a Murphy's Law guy, and I don't know how you guys feel about this. I enjoyed this so much. I'm excited to watch the next 2 installments. I am just pleading. I'm hoping the next 2 installments reach this level. Or Bruce, do you take the other tack that maybe it'll be even better? I don't know.
I mean, I kind of wonder about that too, but this could stand alone and still be very satisfying. It has a little bit of a cliffhanger, but you could kind of ignore that cliffhanger. If you don't like the rest, this can stand alone and be great. I also just wanted to call out really quick again, the Josh character of the young nerdy brother. I think he is a key and integral piece to making this even more fun. I really loved his character a ton, and I was happy to see that he became more than just the annoying little brother. They really gave him something to do. So
also back to Bruce's point and the stakes in this, and given that each one is its own decade, what are the decades again? This one's 97. The
other one's
78,
1978, and the next one is 1666. Yes.
So there's pretty wide margins between there. So I wouldn't expect to see the same characters in all of them, although there's probably going to be a variation of some sort. But the Bruce's point with the stakes, like I don't know, if you watch Star Wars and there's a trilogy coming out, Luke Skywalker is going to make it all the way to the end. You just know that. But since each one is like different decades, so far removed, and it's a horror, like you just don't know. And this one they set up pretty good that no one's safe. Some people might be, other people might not be. You never know. So I think going into the second one, it's going to be, if they pull it off as well as they did this one, it's going to have that kind of thing where I'll be on the, and I like the characters, I'm going to be on the edge of my seat going, I don't know. They could live, they could not. I have no idea what's about to happen right now. And that's pretty exciting, I think.
Well, discredit to me, Eric Holmes, for not doing my research before doing this review. I'm going on IMDb right now, looking at the main characters we spoke about in Fear Street Part 1. And so far, I've gone through about half of them. And they are both, a lot of these actors that we love, they are in the on the upcoming Fear Streets too. So all of these teenagers they're going to play iterations of themselves, maybe previous descent, like their ancestors, and that it'll be great to chart each of these actors from 1666 to I think 1978. So this is sort of well, it'd be cool. It'd be nice.
Or maybe they just planted that there. It's like, you think they're coming back? They're not coming back. Or, oh, you think they're going to make it all three? They're not really going to be.
That's very good.
They're trying to MCU you. That's that's what they're trying to do.
Yes. Okay. So this is a bottom line, comes out this Friday. Fear Street Part 1, 1994. Strong recommend from me. Bruce, Eric, solid recommend for you guys?
Yes. And can't wait to see the other two. And I'm also with you there, Greg. Please don't suck. Please don't suck.
Please don't suck, man. Bruce, why? You're an expert at this. Why didn't directors or writers decide back in the 90s? No. Props to Wes Craven for actually making us actually care at the end of Scream what happened to the people. Why do you think a lot of filmmakers didn't follow on that recipe as far as us caring for characters until the end? Because we ultimately in the third act, we usually care more about the elaborate nature of the kill scenes as opposed to the characters, when we should really care.
I mean, it's that combination, right? Some of them are just making a movie to make money because they're just following a formula, and then you got to figure some of them are going like, well, we want a sequel. We can't kill them off because we got to have a sequel. So, I mean, that's why you get some directors that keep making different movies because they know they're not going to have a sequel because they keep killing off their characters. I mean, look at John Carpenter. He kills off a lot of characters in a lot of great movies, but he didn't make a lot of sequels. So,
yeah. Okay, so that is our first movie, Fear Street Part 1, 1994. Again, Friday on Netflix. Strong recommend from all of us. Next movie is a movie I foisted onto Bruce and Eric. We were looking for movies for this week, and I saw Kelsey Grammer as the lead. I saw Julia Stiles, Janine Garofalo, and I'm thinking, okay, give this one a shot. This movie is The God Committee. It's in select theaters and on demand July 2nd, 2021. Centers on I believe a hospital in New York. And the God Committee is a group of doctors, officials. There's one preacher. There's a administrator. Administrator is played by Janine Garofalo. The doctors are played by Julia Stiles and Kelsey Grammer. The Kelsey Grammer and Julia Stiles characters, not too much of a giveaway at the beginning. You see these doctors. They're both very renowned. They're lovers. Okay. Julia Stiles, she's the new member of the committee. And this committee, the God Committee, the reason why they're quote unquote the God Committee is they have to decide which patient gets the latest heart transplant.
I think the suicide's a disqualifier. Besides, there's so many other issues with this patient.
Can I ask you something, Dr. Boxer? Aren't these decisions supposed to be made on pragmatic medical grounds?
They are.
So who are you to judge? You can't possibly understand what Walter was going through.
I'd say an attempted suicide is pretty relevant to a character evaluation, wouldn't you?
Who knows? Evaluating someone's true character, or soul, if you will, seems like a risky proposition to me.
It's like waving a welcome mat to a Jehovah's Witness.
Father, this is standard.
Yeah, but it doesn't change the fact that you're making decisions based on personal perception.
He's not on the stand.
He might be. You all might be. If you make choices based on anything that can't be quantified, you're playing God.
I'll be the first to step aside when God walks in here and votes. In 10 years, I haven't seen him yet.
So they basically play God. They look at several people who are the next in line to receive a transplant. When a heart comes in the hospital, they have maybe a finite amount of time to actually make that decision. That's basically this movie. A lot of it deals with people in a room debating whether or not person A or person B or person C should get it. Let's say person B is actually the son of a very powerful businessman. The powerful businessman is played by Dan Hedaya. Okay, which is interesting because I believe Dan Hedaya started in Cheers, he's worked with Kelsey Grammer before back in the day. Okay, but anyways, the son of this powerful businessman, he He's on life support. He's basically on life support. He needs a heart transplant. The problem is he might not be the perfect candidate for that heart. There are two other people who are more deserving than this guy. And this heart only goes to one person. The problem is this young man's father is very rich, and the very rich father plans to give a $25 million donation to the hospital. So there are definitely conflicts that are aligning with who gets the heart. And so now the voters of the God Committee are very up in arms on whether or not to give this person the heart. That's basically also the Kelsey Grammer character. There's a little subplot with him. It goes back to present day, and this decision was made 6 years prior. So a lot of it is set in the past, but present day, we also see Kelsey Grammer as that heart surgeon he's trying to make new waves, actually becoming a person who's operating on animals, and hopefully one day the organs of animals can actually be transplanted to humans. Who knows? They're playing God in that sense as well. So that is the premise of the God Committee. I'm going to go to Eric Holmes first, because people talking in a room debating over issues within the courtroom drama milieu, I suppose, is Eric Holmes' bread and butter. He loves these types of movies, which is a lot of Sidney Lumet driven type of narratives. And I was thinking, Eric, you could appreciate the merits of this movie, or maybe the demerits of this film. So I wanted to see what you think of the God Committee.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely my favorite part of this movie, is the back and forth between all the characters on why do they deserve it? Because this person did this and that person didn't do that, and the arguments had there, and that was fun. I'm not entirely sure how medically accurate this movie is. I suspect not very, but I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. For what it was, I kind of had fun with it. Bruce mentioned that he thought it looked like a failed pilot. A TV pilot, and this does have kind of a Grey's Anatomy or House. It seems like a episode of Grey's Anatomy, and unfortunately, like towards the end of it, that's kind of where I started. Greg alluded to a subplot, and much like with Fear Street, where they just started piling on the needle drops at the beginning, and it kind of tapered off. This does the opposite, not with the needle drops, but with the subplots. It starts off, oh, this is pretty cool, and then they keep adding more and more subplots. I'm like, you don't need that, you don't need that, you don't need that. And by the end of it, it was just subplot after subplot, and I kind of lost interest a little bit there. But I'd say like the first half, like I enjoyed watching the whole movie, but I enjoyed the first half a lot more, when it was more about the arguments and the conversation at hand. And then when it got to the end of all the twist and subplotty stuff, I kind of stopped caring a little bit. And then there was the bit with the trying to grow a human heart out of a pig, which I guess could be a real thing. I'm sure they do something like that. This would have been a lot better, I think, if they obviously dropped all the subplots, but really got into the minutia of all the arguments and all the science behind organ harvesting. And they actually even brought up a bit about the ethics of organ harvesting, which I thought that was, I like that. There's a lot of good stuff in this movie, but then there's also stuff where I'm like, why do you need that? Kind of just wish they could have trimmed some of the fat, not necessarily make it shorter, but trim the fat and then expand on the stuff that's really important and really interesting. And I think this movie could have been a knockout. As it is, I still really enjoyed it, and I would recommend it to anyone who likes Grey's Anatomy.
Cool. Bruce, your thoughts on the God Committee?
Well, for me, this is the dog of the week. I just didn't enjoy this movie very much. The only way I'd like this movie is if it were all just Kelsey Grammer as a mad scientist trying to figure out how to implant animal hearts into humans, and then becoming, I don't know, creatures like Island of Lost Souls or something. But yeah, I'm kind of online with Eric as far as what the problem is. It's just a little bit bigger to me. And that is, this is a movie where it feels like it's written backwards. Like it's written with the idea of like, hey, let's have a movie about the ethics of organ transplants and who gets them. Okay, cool. Let's think up all the different type of people that should get it and discuss what's good and bad about that. Oh, but wait, you think he's the one that should have it, but we're going to give you another little fact. Now, do you think he should have it? And the same thing that they do that. And that's kind of the contrivances that Eric is referring to as it goes on. They keep adding things like, oh, now you know this person uses drugs. What do you think now? Should they have it? And then they put this like artificial timeline in there to give it like, I guess, to make it more tense. And that to me just added more problems where I'm kept going like, okay, well, they've only got like 15 minutes left to come back together. And they're like going down into the basements and meeting each other randomly in hallways and like talking about files and things. I was just like, no, this is no. It was boring, and it was not subtle, and it wasn't dramatic. It was just ideas being debated in my brain.
So that is a strong recommend from Bruce Berkey.
That's a great. I recommend this to anybody who has a pig heart instead of a real heart. This movie is for you.
I would also kind of throw out like something like Margin Call. Margin Call is an awesome movie. You know, most people might find it dry, but to me, it's real interesting because, and I the movie doesn't hold your hand a lot of the times, except for the one scene where he's like, "Talk to me as if I were a child," literally says that in the movie. But beyond that, the movie just kind of goes. And it just it's confident that the story it's telling and all the minutia in what it's telling is interesting enough, and that's all you need. You don't have all the subplots of so and so's girlfriend and boyfriend and who's doing what. I really wish this movie would have had that same confidence to know that, hey, you have a really cool idea here. Go lean on that. And we'll follow. Maybe not everyone, but I certainly will. And you don't need the Hollywood cliches added in as filler. Just have your idea and lean on that and go as far as you can with it.
I thought Kelsey Grammer was pretty good in this movie. I liked watching him as a doctor, his journey. I think a well-developed character amidst all the melodrama. I think actually if this movie was a Kelsey Grammer and Julia Stiles relationship drama without all the issues and just having them talking in a room, they're both very good actors. So I think that's a big part of this movie's strength. But to Bruce's point, yeah, it does get, I think, in my opinion, it does get a little bit bogged down regarding the melodrama. A lot of stuff flying in and around. And honestly, Janine Garofalo as the admin, she's good as the admin, but she's talented. There's a lot of things you can do with her. Has acerbic wit. There's a lot of things you could have used her more in this movie. And this movie, I'm also happy that more movies like this are out. Meaning we did a director spotlight on Sidney Lumet a couple months ago, and there's not a lot of these type of movies out there that tries to tackle issues. And credit the God Committee for doing that. I think it's powered by solid work from Julia Stiles, Kelsey Grammer. It does get a little bit melodramatic, and if you're not invested in the two lead actors or like the back and forth of these issues, the God Committee will not be for you. Eric Holmes gives it a recommendation. I would recommend that with a caveat regarding if you're a Stiles Grammer fan, go for it, as well as the debates are good enough. It is flawed though. Bruce, a no recommend. Any final thoughts regarding the God Committee, by the way, which hits select theaters and on demand July 2nd?
Anyone that listens to or watches Grey's Anatomy and watches this, let me know if I'm correct. Because I don't watch Grey's Anatomy. I've seen a couple of clips on YouTube.
I watched about 9 seasons of its how many 50 seasons, and yes, it is a great kind of like a Grey's Anatomy episode. You're correct. So, all right. So that is the God Committee in theaters and on demand on Friday. Now, also in theaters and on demand, we just got this under the gun. Good job on Bruce Perky for actually watching it probably this morning. This movie called Till Death. First off, let me throw it to you guys. Are both of you fans of Megan Fox? Have you liked some of her stuff? Okay. Ooh, Eric Holmes gives a thumbs up.
Yes.
He's toe thumbs up.
Oh, that's not what I was going for. But
Bruce, fan? You Transformers or Jennifer's? I haven't seen Jennifer's Body. I should watch Jennifer's Body.
I think I think that's her best role that I've seen her in. I think that she's one of those actresses that always comes across to me as someone that keeps trying to be the lead and should be a character. A lot of actors do the same thing too, male or female. They always want to be the head of the movie, but they should try doing more character roles and really having more fun. But that being said, she's pretty good in this. So.
Oh, okay. That being said, that's a good sign. Okay, so Megan Fox is Emma. She is a photographer. She's beautiful. She seems to have it all. Her husband's a district attorney. He's rich. His name is Mark. He's played by Ian Mackin. I've interviewed him quite a bit, and he used to be in an NBC series. I think it's called like The Late Shift or The Night Shift, something like that on NBC. Very talented guy. Mark is played by Ian Mackin. He seems like a very possessive kind of dude. He's making money, celebrating. They have a romantic dinner together, and he whisks her off to a lake house. She's blindfolded. All the way to this romantic dinner, you're wondering, what does he have in store for her? You're thinking probably not so very good, because as the movie opens, we realize Emma's actually with another man, Mark's coworker. Okay. So she's actually cheating on her husband, but maybe she has good reason for cheating on her husband. You don't know. The mystery's building. He takes her to the lake house. This is not a spoiler because it's a premise of the movie. They have a romantic evening together. Maybe Megan Fox's Emma, she's maybe going through the motions because there's maybe not too much love in this marriage, which is 10 years in. Next morning, her husband, I'm not going to say how he does it, but she is now chained to her husband, handcuffed to her husband. Her husband, again, played by Ian Mackin, my fault. Ian Mackin, Eoin. He's dead. Okay, he's dead. Let's just say it. Bullet to the brain. He's like Weekend and Bernie's dead, but grislier. Okay, so what happens is, yeah, that's the premise of the movie. That the first act's done. Now Emma has to lug his corpse around the house. I mean, he's concocted some kind of plan or maybe whatnot. But what happens is there are a couple of possible crooks or interlopers who might actually rob their lake house looking for something, and they are the antagonists of Emma. So while Emma is lugging around this corpse, she also has to evade these two, whoever they may be. They might be killers, they might be robbers, they may be men hired by her late husband. You don't know. So that is pretty much the premise of Till Death. It runs 88 minutes. It's a taut thriller, and it has a lot of things going for it. But before I get into that, I want to get into what you thought of Till Death, Bruce Pricky.
I thought it was okay. With the potential to be really better than okay. I would say, probably, by the way, I'd call it Gerald's Game at Bernie's. That's what I would call it. Anyway, the first 20 minutes, I was thinking, oh, this is just going to be like this trashy Lifetime sort of a thing where you got the asshole husband and the trophy wife who wants to try to escape from him, and she's stuck with it, and it's just kind of melodrama. But when it did the turn you talked about, and it became her lugging around the body, I was like, okay, this is something I can sink my teeth into. This could be really good, still kind of trashy, still kind of cheesy, but fun. And her, and all the way, I was telling my wife about it, when I got to that part, what the situation was. And she's like, well, why doesn't she just go and, get a knife and, chop his hand off? And I'm like, oh, they have an answer to that. So that whole middle section of this movie, I think if it would have just stayed along that path and been this pure two-hander, one-hander kind of, I would have probably come out of this and been like, that was a really cool, neat little thriller. But once we introduced the final third, it kind of downgraded a little bit for me and became fine, but more by the books. I thought the last third was kind of like, I've seen this before. It's okay. It's good enough. You could have a fine evening watching this. I wouldn't say don't see it. I would say it's a mild recommend in that sense. But if it had just stayed in that middle third zone, I think it could have been something kind of a fun little indie, fun little trashy thriller. But oh well.
Mild recommend. So you didn't even want those two guys in the house?
Nope. I didn't want that subplot at all. I would not have even had that subplot. I wouldn't have had anyone else show up to the house.
That is amazing.
Ever.
Interesting. I was fine with the two guys, but I understand where Bruce was going with that interesting the middle act, because the middle act is the one actually, ironically, when you don't have those two people, it's the one that's filled with the most tension because you're alone with a dead body and you're handcuffed. What the hell? And you have the world, the elements are against you. Maybe the villain, Bruce, would be Mother Nature, right? The cold.
Well, I'll give a small example. There's a couple scenes where she has to go downstairs, and the implications of what happens when she has to go downstairs and how that sets up a tension in what's going on with her. Those are the kind of things you could throw at her the whole way, and it becomes like a survival movie, right? Someone continually having these things thrown at them by the elements and by the nature of the situation. To me, that's much more interesting than having it become a cat and mouse thing.
That is a very interesting take. I actually really love that take. Eric Holmes, what do you think of Bruce's take, and what is your take regarding those two people? Would it have been better without them?
I do like Bruce's take, and I do like Gerald's. I mean, this has a lot owes a lot to Gerald's game for sure. Now, as far as Megan Fox goes, she's always one I kind of rooted for. I didn't like I hated the Transformers movies, and didn't think one way or another about her in those. I just kind of dismiss those movies outright. But then hear behind the scenes stuff, the shit that she had to deal with. So I've always kind of rooted for her because she always gets kind of typecast as the hot chick all the time, and I don't know how well she can act, because she doesn't really get roles that give her much to do. Just stand there and look hot. Okay, now bend over and look hot. Okay, now stand up and sit down seductively and look hot. you can be the greatest actor in the world. You're not going to get much out of something like that. And then, of course, I saw Jennifer's Body, which is awesome. And you should watch Jennifer's Body. And I was kind of hoping this would be another, kind of, this doesn't quite get up to Jennifer's Body status to me. But again, it's a pretty fun thriller. I kind of agree with Bruce. I would have liked to see the more of the Gerald's Game approach is I'm stuck here. How am I going to get out? Because, she's just completely isolated. But as it was, a lot of the cat and mouse stuff I thought was kind of fun, even though it does that quiet place thing where it's like, doors make noise when you open and close them, and they're right there. How do they not hear that? There's stuff like that in there, but I just kind of let it go. And I was actually enjoying, Megan Fox's performance in this for what it was, just by virtue of the fact that she gets to do a lot more than, hey, look how hot I am, So, that kind of, I guess that has more to do with me rooting for her than it does, points for the movie itself. But overall, yeah, it's a fun thriller, and I had a good time with it.
Yeah, I agree. It's a fun thriller. Bruce, go ahead.
I was going to throw out there, what do you think? Do you think she could have a second or third chapter in films like playing a part in a Tarantino movie or a David Lynch movie or a Coen Brothers movie?
Yeah, 100%.
Where she doesn't have to be the hot lead,
Yeah, and I think maybe like if she had like a supporting role. I guess she kind of was a supporting role in Jennifer's Body, and maybe that's why she stood out a little more in that. But yeah, like I could see her just like playing some crazy character, or some nutty, or just some straight character, whatever. But just have you bounce out, and then me and Bruce talk about something else. I kind of but we were talking about like the little bits that we kind of liked. One of them I liked was that there was a bit where she's like, "Give me the phone. I gotta call the cops." It's like, we can't. They're gonna think. And she's like, "Dude, I'm tied to my dead husband. I just want to call the cops and get this over. But what if they think this, and this?" I'm like, I don't fucking care. Give me the that's normally the part of the movie where it's like, we can't call the cops because of this, and then immediately you move the body, and now you're fucked because you didn't call the police as soon as you could, and now you're wanted for murder or whatever. But I like that they took that moment that's in like every type of movie like this and kind of just looked at the camera and go, that's a stupid idea, and we're not doing that here.
I will say this though, I'm really, obviously De Palma's my number one guy. I love visual sequences, and I think the final 10 minutes where we have a showdown by the ice flows, it's actually not a spoiler. You see it in the poster. It's really well done, well mounted. I thought I really like the final execution of the movie, how she has to brave everything, the elements, and near death. So I really enjoyed a lot of things about Till Death. As far as Megan Fox as a star, she has something that I think most even great actors don't have. She just has an innate charisma. You look at her, your eyes trained her. Okay, so I guess that can be a bad thing, because if you're just typecast as a hot guy or hot girl, that sucks because it's only one dimension.
Typecast as hot guy all the time.
Exactly, right, Eric? But the thing is, when she's on screen, the camera loves her. Okay, all you got to do with that though is fit her with a genre that fits to her skill set. And I think this, and something, she was good in, what was the movie that she was actually in with that Judd Apatow film that was really, This Is 40, she was good in that one as well. She's shown, I haven't seen any of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff, and I haven't seen her in New Girl.
It's same as Transformers. It's a look at Megan Fox being hot as April O'Neil. And she's got a little more to do there, but not by a whole lot.
I did like her in a movie that no one else probably liked. It's called Rogue. She was very good in that movie as well.
I gotta watch that one.
Yeah, it's a cool film. She's good. Yeah. She's good in it. So she's good. She's good. Is she Meryl Streep or De Niro? No, not many people are, but I think she has a really good quality about her, and it really works for her in this movie. So I ended up really enjoying Till Death. Surprisingly so. So that movie, hold on one second. It hits theaters and on demand July 2nd. Anything else you guys want to say about this? Because I'm going to cough in a second.
I'll just say it's a recommend. This is a great, you're at home. I mean, obviously it's not at home yet, but you're at home Saturday night. You want to just watch something with your wife or something, have a couple beers. You'd have a fun time with this movie.
Yeah,
very cool.
Yeah, pretty much. You already watched Gerald's Game. You already finished Gone Girl. Fuck it, we're watching Till Death next. Triple feature this mofo.
Sounds good. Okay, so we're done with our 3 featured films. Now we're going to a movie rewind. Eric, you got a movie rewind for this week?
I do.
Cool.
I do. I got what do I? Oh, Paris, Texas. We did. So what is this movie about? A guy just kind of wanders in. Harry Dean Stanton? He's just kind of wandering around. And what's his name from Quantum Leap? I keep forgetting his name.
Dean Stockwell.
Dean Stockwell shows up, and he knows this guy, and is, hey, where you been? And he's just kind of muttering and mumbling, and then a whole bunch of nothing happens for about an hour and a half. And then at some point he meets his son, and then that's where I don't know about you guys, but for me, that's where this movie became great. And watching his son, and then him kind of I don't know how much I should. I mean, the movie's old, and Bruce already covered it, but yeah, this movie got pretty fantastic in the last half, and I kind of need to go back because I was absolutely checked out in the first half of this movie. I was like, oh god, I'm not going to make it through. And then the second half kicked in, and I don't know what it was exactly, but it had that kind of had a similar flavor to Miracle Mile to me. And that part started shining through. I'm like, oh, now I'm in again. And so now I want to go back and watch the beginning of the movie to where I was pretty much just rolling my eyes and see, because I think I missed a lot in that first half. But the second half was quite moving, and had some bits with the mom and the kid that were kind of fucked up, but at the same time, I was kind of there for it, like in line with how the characters were acting towards each other, even though it seemed very strange that someone would do that. But yeah, thumbs up.
Eric, for people who haven't seen Paris, Texas, what would you warn them regarding the first maybe hour plus, as far as getting into the tone or the mood of it? Maybe.
Yeah, it's just one of those type of movies you gotta be in for it. And if you're not, I would say I definitely think this movie's worth watching. I would say if you're not into it, put it away, and then you'll know what kind of tone it is, and then you can come back when you're ready for something like that. Because then you can go back, watch it, you'll be in that mind frame to get through that first half. And then once you do, it pays off, because that second half is pretty great.
Bruce, you agree on that as far as the first half? I mean, it's...
I can totally see it. I think one of the things I would identify about the first half is that the whole movie is kind of Harry Dean Stanton kind of coming out of his shell and revealing what led him to basically be in the desert. So by the time you get to the second half, you understand the emotional stakes better. And you have his son, and you understand like who he's separated from. So basically what I had said when I talked about it the first time is the second half is a reverse road trip from the first half. So the first half is almost like he's a cipher. Like he doesn't have any characteristic other than he's kind of just this weirdo that doesn't talk. So you're really just getting scenery. So that's with the second half, you have actual emotional stakes. And I think that's, to me, when it works, and it becomes a road picture with more than one character that is involved in those stakes. So then I think you can really lock in to the story.
I started watching Until the End of the World, which is another Wim Wenders movie, and I haven't finished that, but that's kind of doing that same thing where like it starts off, it's like, dude, what the fuck? Are you daring me to watch your movie? But then after having watched Paris, Texas, now I kind of get into his flow a bit, and I trust him a lot more because assuming how Paris, Texas ends, I'm guessing Until the End of the World is gonna eventually get out of its own ass and start telling a story and paying off. And so I'm actually kind of looking forward to that.
I hope for your sake it does. If those, how many hours you want is going to spend on Until the End of the World?
I think, I got the Criterion. I think that's like 4 or 5 hours. It's a long one, but they got like a shorter version of the same, like a 2-hour version. Yeah. But I figure if I'm going to get the Criterion, might as well watch the full meal deal.
Full meal deal. Wow, that is more than a cheeseburger. That's the entire steak restaurant or fast food restaurant.
I do like steak.
I do. And by the way, folks, I'm not a vegetarian anymore. I'm going back to eating meat. So I've started my road back to hell and not eating meat. I'm a meat eater now. Speaking of meat and eating, Willy's Wonderland, was that a good cheeseburger for you, Bruce, as far as movie rewinds? I ended up liking it. Eric Holmes, I remember, did not like it so much, but I liked it.
I'm pretty much with Eric on this one. It had all the ingredients, but it had maybe been in the warmer at the AM/PM mini mart a little too long.
That's
Possibly.
disgusting. That's disgusting, Bruce. That is a bad image.
But
Oh.
I put it this way. I think the thing that would have, because Cage was really, sometimes Cage sleepwalks through some of these movies. He was trying in this movie, probably more than he had to try in this movie. But the two things that it should have done, in my opinion, is that the animatronics should have been animatronic. They were mostly people in suits with animatronic heads, and the human movements of the suits kind of didn't work the way it should have. I wanted them to be like actual crappy robots attacking him. And the number two thing was when they had fights, they were always like kind of like fist fights, almost like kung fu style fist fights.
Yeah.
And when I had these robot things, I wanted to see the robot things attacking with different robot like abilities or something, like maybe their arm twists out and becomes a drill, or I don't know. I wanted to see that kind of stuff with it, as opposed to just kind of a fist fight with a guy in a weasel costume. So it should have been a lot more fun than it was. Although if you, once again, like we talked about before, this, I think Eric said this and I would agree. If you're with a bunch of buddies, it's free now on, I think I saw it on Hulu. It's, you have a bunch of buddies over, you want to watch something stupid with Nicolas Cage and drink a bunch of beers and just make
watch
fun
Psycho
of it.
Gorman.
Yes, watch Psycho Gorman. Watch Benny Loves You. But if you don't,
Benny loves you.
but if you've it expired all those options and you're looking at Nicolas Cage's face and some animatronic things, it could be worse.
It could be worse. Yeah, it could be worse. That's, I mean, that's not a ringing endorsement, but I think it's an endorsement enough for a movie like Willy's Wonderland. It's fine enough.
And I like the main woman in it. I don't know what her name was. But
Emily Tosta. She's very good. She's very
good.
I
thought she was better than needed to be in this movie. So she, I would see those two go on a weird road trip together. So
she's very good in this movie. Very, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually interviewed her recently, and due to, as you guys know, due to Wi-Fi troubles, my interview with her didn't go as well as planned because I need to do something about my Wi-Fi, my bad. But yeah, she's very good in Willy's Wonderland. She's the best part of the movie. And Nick Cage, little selling point. You're not going to get Nick Cage doing a lot of showy monologues because Nick Cage essentially plays a silent film character in Willy's Wonderland. That was a nice touch. I wish they did a little bit more with that, but it has some interesting moments. But at the very least, pizza and beer with some friends, Willy's Wonderland. And if you've already seen PG Psycho Gorman and Benny Loves You, you're okay. And if you're good, Benny Loves You. Okay, so Eric, before we get to your pick, we want to talk to Bruce just very quickly regarding Etheria Film Night. This is something that you've really wanted, you've championed for the last, several weeks, and you were able to see selections
I won't go into a big detail on it. I'll just mention what it is and a couple quick highlights. But Etheria Film Night, every year for the last 2 years, Shudder has been hosting for a month the Etheria Film Night. And Etheria Film Festival basically focuses on up-and-coming genre filmmakers that are either women or identify as women. So it is basically focusing on up-and-coming talents that ended up becoming, the kind of filmmakers that make a movie like Censor, which you talked about recently, or Saint Maud. There are a lot of great women filmmakers that are rising up, and especially rising up in horror and sci-fi and thrillers. I think they're really getting a lot of interesting product out there. So this has eight or nine short, and there's a couple I'll just mention really quick. One's called The Fourth Wall by Kelsey Bolig. I think she's a French filmmaker, and it has this crazy energy and color scheme and everything, and it feels almost like Gaspar Noé, like this woman just losing her mind backstage before she's going to go on stage with her coworkers, and just kind of this manic short. That one's great. There's another one called You Will Never Be Back, directed by Monica Mateo. I believe she's Spanish. And that one is kind of this weird alternate reality in a hallway. She leaves her apartment, goes into the hallway, and kind of gets stuck in a dimension or something. And it's very Lynchian and very, very cool. And the last one, the one that really, really caught my eye, and I guess this is possibly being developed into a feature. It's called Who Goes There, directed by Astrid Thorvaldsen. She's, I think, Norwegian, but directs out of Britain, and it takes place in 1880 Minnesota. And for this little short, it has an amazing, epic Western classic look, beautiful vistas.
Who goes there?
What was it?
Who goes there? What is it called? Who goes there?
Who Goes There? Yeah. And it's all these are short, obviously it's not long, but she very quickly is able to create an incredible mood, this incredible sense of dread, and this very authentic looking Old West kind of epic look, and the plains and all this stuff. It's pretty awesome, and it was really, really beautiful. And if they're developing that to a movie, it could be quite striking. So yeah.
Okay, so that's Etheria Film Night currently streaming at, I guess till the end of the month, maybe, Bruce.
Yeah, I
via
believe it's
Shudder.
till the end of July, I believe, on Shutter.
Oh, end of July.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. These are 3 good short recommendations from Bruce Perky. And now, Eric, we're gonna go to your recommendation this week: The Video Store Left Alone in the Snow.
Yep.
Short.
I got a interesting message from I believe it was Steve Sanders, and he just said, "Hey, we make shorts, and would you like to check them out?" I'm like, "Well, fuck yeah!" So I put them on, and so you got The Video Store, about 20 minutes long, and Left It Alone in the Snow is 15 minutes long. So they're just kind of they feel like kind of like a short B movies, like a Trauma-esque type B movies. It's definitely rough around the edges, but I had a lot of fun with the Video Store. Left Alone in the Snow was didn't quite work for me, but I think what these guys do, and one of the main reasons I wanted to bring this up, beyond the fact that the Video Store was just so ridiculous and it was awesome, but they make these movies and they sell them on their website. And let me pull it up here. It's the website is hecticfilms.com. And so they have their movies there, and you can buy them, however much they are. I didn't really look too deep into it, but they take the money that they use to sell their shorts, and then they just turn it right around and make more shorts. The Video Store, I think, the Video Store, or was it Left Alone in the Snow? One of the two, probably both of them. They had 6 people and $1,000 budget. So this is not low budget. This is almost no budget. I get the flavor that these are people that just have their friends or people that kind of just want to make movies. It's got that kind of trauma spirit to it, which even if the movies aren't for you, I think the spirit and a lot of people can kind of appreciate what they're doing. But yeah, the Video Store totally worked for me. It's kind of a science fiction horror. And then Left Alone in the Snow is a woman by herself, not unlike the Megan Fox movie we just watched. She's by herself and trying to get away from some creeps trying to creep her. Hecticfilms.com. Go check them out. And if you got a couple bucks, throw them a couple bucks. And hopefully they'll make the movie Killer Vampires into a feature length of that, because I really, 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 really want to watch a feature-length version of Killer Vampires.
What's cool is The Video Store stars an actor that I like. His name is James Duvall. James Duvall starred in the Greg Araki film years ago with Rose McGowan and Jonathan Sheck called The Doom Generation. And how old am I, Bruce Perky? I'm so old that I actually interviewed
20
James
years
Duvall.
old.
Yeah, 20 years. Thank you. I actually interviewed James Duvall for The Doom Generation back in the day. So I have always been a fan. And James Duvall, of course, he's known for his work in Donnie Darko as well. So these guys actually picked out a pretty good actor to work with for The Video Store. So I'm actually, my interest is piqued to actually watch The Video Store, and maybe I'll.
Yeah, it looks like what's his name? The Vincent Pastore. Is that his name?
Yeah,
it looked like he was in one of them, or maybe I got the. Is he the one?
Yeah. From the Sopranos. So.
Yeah, I didn't watch that one, but I saw they tend to get some lesser known actors, but I mean, yeah, just the whole style and the kind of spirit that they seem to do their movies at. I think it's worth spreading the word, because they're having fun, and that's what this is all about.
Okay, so if you want to check out The Video Store or Left Alone in the Snow or a bunch of other movies that they have done, or check out their merch store, go to hecticfilms.com. They have shows, they have live stream, they have a really good homepage. Okay, so you can buy their films there via Hectic Films. Props to Eric Holmes for checking their movies out. Now, speaking of checking movies out, Bruce, before we get to what's in the box, you have something called Come True, which, by the way, I will never see because the ending seems like might frustrate me. But I want you to tell listeners maybe they should see it, and maybe they might have better taste than I do.
Yeah, a lot of people have been frustrated by the ending. I personally loved this movie. This is very possibly going to be in my top 5 movies of the year. We'll see how it falls out by the end of the year. This had actually been mentioned to me about 3 months ago, I think, or 2 months ago, when it went on video on demand by Andrew Martin. And it had somehow just fallen out of my brain. And then all of a sudden it popped up on Hulu. It's now streaming since last week on Hulu. And I was like, oh, I wanted to check out that movie like 2 months ago. I'm going to check this out. This movie is just wonderful. It's my cup of tea. Right out of the gate, it's one of those movies that as it gets more and more mysterious and weird, it will eventually reveal an overall reality that you may or may not appreciate in the ways that you might get in like a Mulholland Drive or something. So some people at the end of Mulholland Drive feel like, oh, that's all it is. I don't like the movie anymore. If you kind of tend to feel that way about these sort of movies, then this might not be for you. But that being said, the basic concept, it's directed by Anthony Scott Burns, by the way. He directed it. He wrote it. He's a self-professed obsessive. He spent, I think, like 5 or 6 years working on this film. He, well, I'll tell you real quick, a little fact that tell you about him a little more. The basic story is around a character named Sarah, played by Julia Sarah Stone. It starts out with her waking up in a playground. She's been sleeping all night on the like the slide, and then very quickly you discover she's probably a senior in high school. She's riding home to quickly run into the house, get some food, take a shower, and get out of the house. So you kind of get the feeling like she's run away from home. She's living semi-homeless. You're not sure what. She still goes to school. And within the first, 20 minutes or so, she sees a sign for a sleep study, takes it. It's a way to make money. It's a way to spend somewhere at night and not be at home. And she goes and becomes part of the sleep study. And once you get into the sleep study, that's when things get weirder and weirder and weirder. You have this kind of interesting combination of kind of retro / futuristic technology, which you see in some of these movies. You kind of discover that maybe there's something to do with sleep paralysis. It kind of taps into some of those same mysteries that you get in things like Philip K. Dick stuff, where you're like, what's reality? What isn't reality? Like, are the dreams reality? There's a lot of cool stuff going on here. It's so much fun. The technology, for example, talking about how obsessive this guy is, he loved the little monitors that you see in the original Blade Runner, those little blue square monitors. So he found out what model of monitor that was. And then he basically scoured the internet and the world to get enough of those actual models of monitors to use for his homemade monitor setup in this movie. It's dreamy, it's emotional, it's mysterious, it's moody as hell. It's really, really cool. The people who like it have described it as garage Kubrick. Like, if Kubrick was running out of his garage with a limited budget, this might be the kind of stuff he came up with as an early filmmaker.
The people who will not like this movie are people who, what?
They're people who think like, they think that if an explanation at the end might cheapen it and make the actual journey not worth it. And that's why I say something like Jacob's Ladder would be another example, right? If you've seen Jacob's Ladder, You know what the ending is?
Yeah.
Some people might like, well, why did I watch that movie if that's the whole thing?
Why did I watch the movie, Bruce?
Yeah, because it's cool.
It's cool, yeah.
So it's cool and it's interesting. And once you know,
wait, is the ending as good as Jacob's Ladder, Bruce? Come on. That's a doozy of an ending.
It's pretty interesting. Okay, let's just say those kind of movies, what I say, if they work for you, the way they work is you enjoy the whole movie the first time, and then you want to see the movie again to understand how all those elements recontextualize based on your knowledge of what is actually occurring.
You were fine with the ending. You loved the ending then.
I did. Yep.
All right.
And I don't think the ending is exactly at face value either. And this is one of those things you can't talk about if you let's talk about spoilers. There's things that happen at the ending that explain it in quotes, but where you're getting it explained to you isn't exactly a reliable narrator. So the explanation you're getting might not be absolutely the truth because of the way it's being fed to you. So it's really cool.
Does it sound really cool to you, Eric Holmes?
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
I was actually thinking of never mind.
You're thinking something. Oh, okay. You're oh, never mind. Oh,
what he was talking about the ending, and I was thinking of the ending to the video store. And I was like, and then you're like, this is a great ending. I'm like, is it though? Because it wasn't as good as the ending to the video store.
The ending. Oh, so okay, the ending of the video store is good.
But some people are really angered by the ending of this. So, This is one of those things I say, if you are enjoying the mood 30 minutes in, write it out. I think you'll enjoy it, even if you don't love the ending. But if you're not enjoying it 30 minutes in, then, it might not be your cup of tea. I mean, this is a definitely mood and a tone piece. It's very dreamy. It's very cool. It's very stylized. I think it has a lot to offer.
Eric Holmes, have you seen Jacob's Ladder? Did you like the ending of Jacob's Ladder?
I don't remember the ending to Jacob's Ladder. I
remember what?
I remember watching it, and I remember like a bunch of crazy stuff happens, And then I remember like a guy in one of those sense deprivation tanks. And then I remember that's not Jacob's Ladder, that's Altered States.
You need to
And
watch
then
Jacob's Ladder again, dude.
yeah, I've definitely seen it. It's been way too long, and I get that in Altered States like mixed up like constantly. Actually, I just need to watch both of them again.
I remember watching Jacob's Ladder for the first and last time, I believe on cable. I was a college student, and I remember the ending when it gets to that end, and I remember just being shook to the core and thought, I just saw that. I just saw that ending. I can't believe, and it's still, I think it's one of my favorite endings. I really love that. I mean, it was a great era of endings. I mean, I don't know what year. I was thinking, I think around that time, I don't know when Angel Heart was released. I remember as a kid watching Angel Heart, the final ending of the final moments of Angel Heart, and saying, "Oh, nothing's gonna top that." Then I think Jacob's Ladder came and blew that one off the roof. So both of those, if you love good endings, I don't know if you guys can co-sign on the ending of Angel Heart, the ending of Angel Heart, and the ending of Jacob's Ladder, both fantastic endings. Do you guys co-sign, or what do you think?
Yes. Well, the Angel Heart, I kind of remember that one. Jacob's Ladder is a blur. I got to rewatch it.
I mean, I always think of Jacob's Ladder as being known for its ending. So,
Yeah.
Is it the hospital part or
kind of? You're getting
yeah. I mean,
bordering on
it's something like it's not. Let's just say this: it's not ambiguous. You'll know, and when you
Okay.
realize when you go to the ending, I don't know if you agree, Bruce. First, when I saw the ending, I go, "Wow, what a clever way to end a film! Just a very clever without being cheap."
And with Come True, it's got a non-ambiguous ending, but I'm saying that I don't know if you can absolutely believe the non-ambiguous ending that's given to you. But some people still hate it because of that. So
it's some ambiguous in its non-ambiguity.
Yeah, right. And some people, Bruce, to your point, some people love it because of the unreliable narrator, right? They love that talent, maybe.
Yeah, well, and that maybe, and just, I mean, some people are like me, like if you like the vibe, I think you'll like it either way because the vibe is so strong and it's such a singular approach to a low budget movie. And once again, it's a low budget movie, but I love a low budget movie that really shoots for the stars. Like it is not playing it safe at all. It's going for it. So.
And I want to sincere apologize to Bruce Perkey, as I just opened an email on March 10th of this year from a publicist over at IFC Midnight offering us screener links to this movie called Come True. And yeah, I apologize for that. That's a movie that I missed on March 10th. I should have actually flagged it down for us when it came out, Bruce.
I mean, this is my favorite sci-fi feature. I think I was saying this online like since Annihilation. Like in 2 years, I haven't seen a sci-fi feature that's this good. So
my goodness. Okay, that is huge recommendation. We are closing the show as we always do with Bruce Perkey and his What's in the Box segment. And well, helping us close is our featured friend every single week is middle class film classes Peter Beta. What does Peter Beta do every week, Eric Holmes?
Yo, Pete, drop that beat.
Who's in the box? What's in the box? You lie! No! What's in the fucking box?
All right, we're back. Peter Beta, he did drop the beat. Bruce, what do you got for us? And I apologize again for this because I didn't see it.
This is to double mention Andrew Martin. His suggestion this week was Dreams by Akira Kurosawa from 1990. Once again, I think you can only rent it. I don't think it's streaming anywhere. Once again, why? I don't know. I
saw this on YouTube. All of it is on YouTube. I tried watching the first 7 minutes and then I said, oh, I think I might have to actually use my brain for this one. And I said, I'm just going to go and watch till death and just get my cheeseburger right now. So.
Well, this is basically, it's from my understanding, I didn't do like a ton of research on this. It's Akira Kurosawa. It's the first one he wrote all of himself in like 40 years. I think he had written one 40 years earlier. And not based on something else. And it's based loosely on a bunch of dreams that he had throughout his life. And it sort of goes chronologically, like the early dreams or there's 8 quote dreams. It's like an anthology, basically 8 short pieces within this movie. And it starts with little kids doing things and it kind of goes, so it kind of follows the path of a life. So by the end, you're talking to there's an older man that's kind of the focus of the last one. And there are a whole variety of different things. Like any Kurosawa, it's beautiful. It's amazingly produced. The shots are stunning. There's some stuff in here that's just crazy. Like the very first one, for example, is Sunshine Through the Rain. Each one has a title that pops up. It's a really little kid, and he's standing outside of a house. And apparently this house is a reproduction of Kurosawa's childhood home, including the plaque that is his dad's, the name of their house, their family on the plaque. And it's his mom saying, don't go outside when there's sun and rain at the same time. The foxes are going to go out and have their wedding procession. And if they see you, they're going to be angry. And then off he goes into the forest in the sunny rain, and fox, I won't tell you, it's weird. It's this kind of fantasy sequence. And this is one of the Kurosawa I've seen. This is the most sort of fantastical. There's almost like a folktale quality to each segment, and some work better than others for you. I mean, one involves Van Gogh, and where a guy literally goes into Van Gogh paintings, and you've got Martin Scorsese as Van Gogh, which is kind of odd, but it was all right. Not my favorite. I'll just tell you really quickly my favorite ones, and then go out and watch it. If you're a Kurosawa fan, it's worth watching. You're going to at least see 2 or 3 of the shorts that you'll really like in this. Peach Orchard's really good. The one I just mentioned is really great. There's one called The Tunnel, which is fantastic, where this and supposedly, according to hearsay, this is co-directed by Ishiro Honda, who did, I think, the original Godzilla. They were like lifelong friends, and they would say that he helped co-direct a few of these sequences in here. But the tunnel involves this guy. So a soldier walks through this tunnel and comes out the other side, and then he turns around, and out of the tunnel walks one of his dead troops to talk to him. And then that sequence proceeds. It's really cool and really interesting and haunting. A lot of this stuff is very like stages of life stuff, everything from war to beauty to childhood to just, all the things that might happen in your life. It's pretty great. And once, like I said, it's a little more uneven than some of his works that are the greatest works, because it isn't one story, but also each story is, 15 to 20 minutes. So if one isn't working for you, the next one probably will. So pretty great.
So you would recommend Dreams by Kurosawa then?
Oh, for sure. And especially if you're a Kurosawa fan and you maybe only know his earlier stuff, it's kind of interesting to see what he was doing around the 90s, as opposed to back in the 60s, 50s, and 40s. So
that is Akira Kurosawa, Dreams. That was chosen by our buddy, fellow podcaster Andrew Martin. Bruce Perky, you're gonna pick another film for next week for What's in the Box. What's in the bleeping box?
What's in the box, Bruce?
I know my son is hoping. He's hoping and praying that I pick his terrible movie.
Oh,
right.
nice.
Hey, Bruce, what's in that box there? Well, you got a box. Why don't you open what's in the box?
I'm opening it. Calm down.
What's in the box?
Okay, all I can tell you is by Angie Clark. That's
Angie
right
Clark?
out the gate.
Okay.
Oh wait, never mind. I already did that one. I don't know how I got in there.
No,
it was Hero Dreams of Sushi. I've already done Hero Dreams of Sushi.
Oh yeah, both you and
All
Eric had interesting.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Angie. You got left out on that one. Okay. It's from my son, but it's not the one he was hoping for.
Oh.
He has 2 in here apparently that I didn't know about.
Cool. Very cool.
So I'm going to watch on Netflix. I've never watched this, but I've heard it's great. Is Klaus.
It's like a mouse thing.
It's a Santa Claus movie.
Santa Claus movie, animated, but it's supposed to be really interesting and cool. And I've never seen it. So Klaus.
Same here. I've heard. I keep thinking people are trying to country bears me on that. It's like, oh, it's really good. I'm like, great. I'm not falling for it. I'm not falling.
Well, I'm going to fall for it. So I will report back on Klaus, and he's going to be upset because it wasn't Bobbleheads the movie, which is he's waiting for me to get.
Oh, that's
just
terrible. That's going to be a friggin' killer. What kind of son are you, Andrew? Come on. My goodness. Well, I'm glad you're a great dad because you haven't made your son watch The Painted Bird yet. That's a good, you'll never have Andrew watch The Painted Bird because that's a movie I don't think you'll ever recommend to anybody, right, Bruce?
No.
No, for lack of a better word. So we just wrapped up this week. Remember, we'll be back this weekend for our Stanley Kubrick Director Spotlight, courtesy of Anderson Cowan and Eric Holmes. The choices are Lolita and Spartacus. I am going to cheat. I'll probably watch only 10 minutes of it. Don't tell Eric and Bruce, because 3 hours and 15 minutes. Is that 3 hours and 15 minutes?
It'll breeze right by.
I'll breeze right by. You know what?
Greg.
Yes.
2 words. Kirk Douglas.
Kirk Douglas, right?
Just saying.
We haven't, in fairness, Eric Holmes has been holding our Kirk Douglas segment since our inception. I mean, he probably was doing Kirk Douglas movies back in the days of our movie mainline days. So I'm sure he's very excited to do another Kirk Douglas film. Obviously, one of Douglas's best known works, that is Spartacus. And of course, since I was gonna make a joke with me and Lolita, but this is not a good time and a place and woke and me too. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna make any little.
Bruce just
jokes.
picked his son's movie. It's like we're in a clean spot.
We're in a clean. Yeah, Lolita has nothing to do with my dating life, folks. Though I have zero dating. I mean, just watch Fear Street 1994. Think of the dude, number 5, what he's doing in the mirror, and then you can just think of me in a very disgusting fashion. Go tell us what you think of all these movies. Hit us up. Eric, anything else we want to plug? Anything else we should plug?
Check out hecticfilms.com. See if they're if you're into what they're doing, and if not, maybe throw them a couple bucks anyway, because it's always good to help people kind of get their art out there and have some fun.
Yep, people use their money to actually make movies. So I'm Eric Holmes is actually will be raising funds for his own movie and directing very down the road, very very soon. So he's very personally connected to that. So if you have any, if you want to send a couple of bucks our way, send it to Eric Holmes or Bruce Perky. Don't ever send me any money, folks, because you know where that money goes to. #cryptocurrency. Benny doesn't love me on that side. In that sense, Benny does not love me whatsoever. As always, per usual, we are ending our show with final thoughts from Bruce Perky.
I would say, just to add to what Eric was saying, go to Etheria Film Nights, support brand new filmmakers. We want you guys to be watching the filmmakers that are just getting started now and discover the ones that are going to be the greats for the future.
All right, guys, take care, and we will see you next week.